In a quiet moment, a boy named Sergey rests on a tree branch, quietly observing the peaceful scene around him while his mother washes laundry by the river and his brother searches the shallow water for fish. The stillness of the afternoon is suddenly shattered when a plane appears overhead and opens fire, forcing their mother to urgently tell the boys to hide. Yet Sergey, showing unexpected bravery, raises his slingshot, strikes back, and miraculously brings the aircraft down. But when he turns around to call out to his family, they have vanished without a trace, leaving only silence and smoke behind. The boy then wakes abruptly to the sound of someone knocking at the door and rushes to open it, convinced it might be his mother returning, only to find his Aunt Anicia instead, her face pale with fear. She immediately tells him to gather his belongings because they must leave at once. With a trembling voice, she reveals that his mother and brother have been killed, and explains that if the soldiers discover his true identity, his life will also be in danger, so she plans to take him along and pretend he is her own son. Before they can escape, however, German soldiers storm the house, and although Anicia manages to help Sergey climb out through a window, she is shot moments later, leaving the boy to flee alone into the forest, overwhelmed with fear, yet still clinging to the hope that his mother might somehow find him, despite having no idea of the hardships and loneliness that now lie ahead. After several hours, Sergey is forced to survive on his own, and while drinking from a river, he is startled by the sudden arrival of soldiers, prompting him to quickly search for a hiding place, eventually squeezing himself between the roots of a large tree. At that moment, a snake appears right beside him, its body coiled near his arm, and although he is terrified, he remains completely still, knowing that any movement could cost him his life, as the fear of meeting the same fate as his family outweighs everything else. Meanwhile, the soldiers settle down, light a fire, and rest for a while before eventually leaving, allowing Sergey to emerge cautiously from his hiding spot. Driven by hunger, he rummages through what they left behind and finds a can, hoping it might contain something to eat, and even that small discovery feels like a miracle to him. Days pass, and his condition worsens to the point where he can barely walk, surviving only on a few wild fruits he manages to find, until suddenly the area is bombed and he is forced to run once again through mud and smoke. Later that day, rain begins to fall, and completely exhausted, he no longer has the strength to look for shelter. But after several miserable hours, 2 Russian soldiers discover him and take him back to their camp, where he is welcomed by Commander Kuznetsov, who immediately orders his men to provide food, dry clothes, and medical care. Not long after, the soldiers try to ease their minds by talking about their families before heading into another battle, sharing brief memories that remind them what they are fighting for, but their moment of calm is interrupted when a bomb explodes in the infirmary. Sergey is treated by a nurse named Katya as more wounded soldiers are brought in, forcing her to work tirelessly without rest. Despite being weak and injured, Sergey remains energetic and curious, constantly talking and showing a strong desire to learn about life as a soldier, gradually earning the affection of those around him. At one point, Katya is called outside and discovers a goat wandering near the camp, leaving everyone puzzled about how it got there, yet pleased because it means they will have access to milk and cheese in the coming days, something rare under such harsh wartime conditions. When Kuznetsov arrives with his men, he checks on Sergey and feels relieved to see that the boy is recovering. Sergey eagerly tells him about the painful injection he received and admits he almost ran away, but chose to stay. He then asks to see the commander's pistol. After ensuring it is unloaded, Kuznetsov hands it over, and Sergey becomes fascinated by the signature engraved on it, learning that it was a special gift from General Ostashev, which only increases his excitement as he pretends to fire it across the room until the commander gently takes it back, reminding himself that the boy is still far too young for such things. Unexpectedly, Sergey then shows Kuznetsov a drawing of a battle tank sketched across his stomach and proudly explains every detail of it, before asking whether he owns a plane. Upon hearing that he does not, Sergey simply draws one on the bandage wrapped around his injured arm, turning even his wounds into part of his imagination. After the commander leaves, Katya gathers the courage to speak with him and asks if the boy can stay in the camp, but Kuznetsov refuses, insisting that a child does not belong in such a place and that he will eventually send him to an orphanage where he can be safe. Later, several soldiers visit Sergey, and he becomes especially excited when he gets to use binoculars for the first time, staring into the distance as if trying to understand the whole battlefield. As they leave, Rezo arrives, and Sergey runs straight into his arms, happily accepting a piece of candy, while the bond between them, like with the others, continues to grow stronger with every passing day. That night, Katya confides in another nurse that she has been unable to sleep ever since Sergey arrived, as she cannot stop thinking about him. The woman admits that from the very first moment she saw him, something within her shifted, resembling a maternal instinct she never expected to feel so strongly. Katya explains that she does not want the boy to remain in the middle of a war, but rather to grow up in a safe place, surrounded by peace instead of gunfire, and her greatest fear is that the commander might send him away somewhere else, making it impossible for her to ever find him again. The following morning, Alexander speaks with Kuznetsov and tries to persuade him to let the boy stay at the camp, since the soldiers have grown deeply attached to him and feel a sense of warmth whenever they see Sergei, believing that their fight is ultimately for children like him and for the future he represents. However, the commander firmly repeats that a war camp is no place for a child, even if every man there has already begun to see him as part of their family. Although Kuznetsov admits that he has also become fond of the boy, he insists on doing what is best for him, then reveals that he has already signed the documents for the orphanage, and that his men must begin to accept that the boy will soon be gone. A few hours later, during an attack, Kuznetsov orders his troops to strike the enemy while he heads into the battlefield to assist Katya, who is rescuing a wounded soldier, and once the fighting ends, they return to camp where the orphanage director is already waiting in a car to take Sergei away. While everyone prepares to say goodbye, Katya, overwhelmed with emotion, chooses to leave without facing the boy. Kuznetsov then asks Sergei to sit beside him and attempts to explain what will happen next, but before he can speak, the boy bursts into tears, hugs him tightly, and confesses that he had been waiting for him, afraid they might never see each other again, prompting Kuznetsov to hand him a small wooden weapon and gently ask if he would like to become his son, and as they embrace, he tears up the orphanage papers he had previously signed. The next challenge is finding clothes that fit Sergei, since the newest member of the unit needs a proper uniform, so Alexander sets aside old garments to be altered, and soon after, Katya brings the smallest pair of boots she can find, which, after some adjustments by the shoemaker, finally fit the boy. The next morning, Kuznetsov wakes Sergei and tells him that, like a real soldier, he must get dressed within 45 seconds before handing him his new uniform, and although the boy is thrilled and rushes to change, he pauses to ask about the bandage on his father's face, to which Kuznetsov casually replies that he nicked himself while shaving. To measure the time, the commander lights a match and instructs Sergei to be ready before it burns out, and after a few matches, they step outside where the boy proudly shows off his uniform to the others. Suddenly, a surprise attack begins, and Kuznetsov immediately runs to shield his son, ordering one of his men to escort the boy to safety while everyone else takes cover in the trenches. During the bombardment, several soldiers are injured, prompting Sergei to go to the infirmary, where he offers water and helps however he can. At one point, a soldier with bandaged eyes asks Sergei to read a letter from his family, but since the boy cannot read yet, he improvises and delivers comforting, made-up news instead, and as the bombs continue to fall, he even offers to sing in order to calm the wounded men, creating a brief moment of relief and hope despite the chaos around them. After the ordeal, Sergei falls asleep on Katya's lap, and when Kuznetsov arrives and sits beside them, he mentions that he needs to tell her something, but the moment is interrupted when the boy wakes up. As the camp is being rebuilt, two soldiers notice Sergei pretending to shave and tease him by asking if he is preparing for a date, but he confidently replies that he is a soldier and that soldiers do not go on dates. Later, he reports to the commander to receive his assignment for the day, and when Kuznetsov asks about the bandage, Sergei repeats the same excuse about cutting himself while shaving, after which he is instructed to collect letters from an incoming truck and distribute them to the soldiers. The men react with joy upon receiving messages from their families, some even celebrating with spontaneous dancing, and this reaction makes Sergei appreciate his role even more. Once he finishes his task, Sergei puts on camouflage and quietly moves around the camp, and while observing through binoculars, he notices a pair of boots attempting to hide, which prompts him to rush back and alert the others about a possible intruder concealed in a haystack. Andrei and his group investigate the situation and encounter two enemy soldiers, and after a brief exchange of gunfire, they manage to capture them, allowing Sergei to safely return to camp. Meanwhile, Kuznetsov learns that his son played a role in capturing the spies, leaving him both surprised and proud of the boy's courage and humility. Shortly afterward, Sergei enters his quarters, where Kuznetsov shares the news that he has officially received permission to adopt him, meaning they are now truly a family, and overwhelmed with happiness, Sergei immediately asks his father to go and tell Katya, adding that he once saw her crying when Kuznetsov was wounded in battle, which catches the commander off guard, though he still agrees to go with him. Meanwhile, Katya is washing herself by the river when a soldier quietly approaches, takes her coat, and then calls out to her while offering a bouquet of flowers he has just picked. She is visibly uncomfortable and immediately tries to retrieve her coat. At that moment, Sergei and his father arrive, and Kuznetsov quickly understands what is happening and pulls the boy away, attempting to act as if nothing is wrong while still observing closely. Sergei, however, breaks free and runs toward Katya, calling for his father, but the man, embarrassed by the situation, has already left. A few days later, during another battle, Sergei moves along the trenches searching for Alexander, and after receiving ammunition, a soldier orders him to go down to the underground shelter. Sergei refuses to leave his comrades behind, yet Alexander manages to convince him that it is a direct order and that a good soldier must obey his superiors. Even so, Sergei remains determined to help, and after overhearing his father and other soldiers discussing a broken communication line caused by a snapped wire, he learns that a group has already been sent to repair it. He decides to follow them, crawling low across the ground to avoid enemy fire, and when he finds a soldier, he offers help and asks how to fix the wire. Following the instructions carefully, he reconnects the two ends, restoring communication and allowing the commander to call for reinforcements, an act that likely saves many lives. After the battle, Sergei comes up with a new plan, as he has noticed the growing connection between Katya and his father, and wants to bring them closer. He rushes to the nurse and claims that the commander is ill, then quickly brings Katya to the room. When she arrives, she sees Kuznetsov lying on the table and wakes him in alarm, while Sergei secretly watches from outside. As she begins to examine him, the commander wakes up and insists that he is not sick, and once the misunderstanding is explained, he realizes his son's intention and tries to express his feelings, but Katya becomes flustered and leaves. Not wanting to miss the opportunity, he follows after her. At the same time, Sergei climbs a tree and observes the camp through binoculars, spotting rescue dogs as they arrive and running over to meet them. Soon after, he asks for permission to take them for a walk and climbs onto a wheeled stretcher as the dogs pull him along, but trouble starts when they spot a cat and give chase. Realizing they are heading straight toward a minefield, Rezo jumps onto a motorcycle and speeds off to stop them just in time, feeling deeply relieved when Sergei is found unharmed. In the forest, Kuznetsov continues trying to speak with Katya, and when he finally catches up to her, he struggles to find the right words, eventually mentioning Sergei and saying how much the boy cares for her, before asking if she would consider becoming his mother. Before she can answer, however, a soldier arrives with a letter from high command. The next day, the unit prepares to move out, and after several hours they stop at a peasant house to rest. Once they finish eating, they discover an unexploded German bomb lodged through the roof and floor, and although it has not detonated, it poses a serious risk, so the soldiers decide to remove it before continuing their march. As they travel on, Sergei rides with Rezo and his father, but their vehicle suddenly explodes, revealing that they have entered a minefield, leaving everyone stunned. A short distance ahead, Sergei finds Rezo dead. When they finally reach their destination, Kuznetsov speaks with a general, while Sergei asks about his next assignment, and he is instructed to inspect the soldiers' uniforms. With the help of an officer, he carefully checks their boots and clothing, records the names of those with damaged gear, and later delivers the report to the general. That night, Sergei and his father walk through the forest, discussing an upcoming ceremony where the Guards badge will be awarded to those who have risked their lives for their country, which means Sergei will also be honored. During the celebration of his first award, a bomb suddenly falls, burying Kuznetsov under debris, and although Sergei tries to rescue him, he lacks the strength to lift the rubble. After the attack, the commander is pulled out with the help of fellow soldiers and receives medical treatment. Despite his severe injuries, Kuznetsov gradually recovers and soon rejoins his unit, and in the following year, 1943, Sergei is officially recognized as the youngest soldier of World War II and is awarded a Medal of Honor, and with that the story ends here.